Hello, all, and welcome to the Fantasy and Sci-Fi Fanatics podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Coolbaugh. Today, I have with me two very special guests, Marisa Wolf and Kacey Ezell. How are you both doing today?
Good. How are
Great.
you?
Yeah, thanks.
I feel so good anytime I can talk to co-authors because I've actually
Yeah.
I've been courting a couple of authors
Nice.
myself. You know how it is. You're like, I just want to do these things first, but I'm already kind of looking.
Mhm.
So it was kind of interesting. I was talking to a few, and it was just nice to, I was already going to have you two scheduled later, after I talked to some of these authors who are also, kind of about to do the dance, so to speak.
Yeah.
So it was kind of interesting. And they asked me, they're like, can you kind of maybe ask some of these type of questions to them? A couple of these authors, watch and listen to the show. Thank you guys. But it'd just be kind of exciting, to get some feedback to them. And you never know, this interview might actually pair me and one of them together. So
Hey, let's do it. Let's do it. That's the goal.
Yeah, let's make it happen.
it'll be interesting.
We'll
It'll be
manifest that.
Yeah.
exactly. We'll have to give you guys credit, but that's totally fine.
Thank you. Yes.
But I appreciate you both coming on today. I know, Marisa, we talked on Facebook. I was like, hey, what do you think? You're like, yeah, let me get Kacey. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, that's even better because the more authors and creatives, the better on here. So I thought that was really awesome. But in terms of however you guys want to try to, kind of answer that first question, I'm just kind of curious at what your writing journey has been like up to this point, and maybe even what kind of brought you guys together.
Yeah. Easy, actually. Do you want to go, Kacey?
Sure. Yeah, I'll start and you can jump in. So, for me personally, I fell in love with stories or so early I can't remember, when it was. My mom tells stories of me being like a little kid playing out with the other kids and organizing these like massively involved pretend scenarios where there were princesses and wizards and dragons and whatnot, and then robots over here, and they all kind of came together for this great epic whatever. That's so I've been telling stories my whole life, because I can't it seems to be an essential part of who I am, of my makeup. And when I was about like a lot of kids who are fascinated with stories, I as soon as I learned to read, I became a voracious reader. And when I was about 7, I was pestering my mother for something new to read. And I think in order to get me to shut up, she handed me a copy of Anne McCaffrey's Dragon Drums, which is actually the third book in Anne McCaffrey's YA trilogy, the Harper Hall trilogy. But it was the one she had on hand. So she handed it to me and was like, here, read this. It's for kids. And so I read it, and it changed my entire life. And that is sadly not an exaggeration. I decided then and there that I wanted to become a dragon rider, and that I was going to figure out how to make that happen on Earth where there aren't a lot of dragons. Spoiler: it involves the answer involved helicopters.
Turns out.
Oh, that's cool.
But I yeah, so I fell in love with dragons and Pern and science fiction and fantasy, and became continued reading in those genres and stuff. And so fast forward to when I'm in college, I went to the United States Air Force Academy because my answer to being a dragon rider was, well, I guess I'll learn to fly aircraft.
That's
And
awesome.
so, yeah, so I was a very logical kid, right? So during my copious amounts of spare time at the Air Force Academy, which again, that's sarcasm. There wasn't a lot of it, but there was some. And I was a very nerdy girl, and I discovered this was like the early days. I'm dating myself here, but this was like the early days of the internet and all this kind of stuff. And I discovered AOL Pern fan fiction, and
I'm
it
really
was
sad I
like
missed that.
my
So
world
good.
like opened up into awesomeness,
Yeah.
because there were these groups of people who would get together online. They would create their own original characters, but it was set in Anne McCaffrey's Pern universe, which is
Cool.
where I wanted to live.
Yeah.
And you could be a dragon, like you could write a story from the perspective of a dragon rider, or a harper, or random kid who finds a fire lizard egg or whatever. And I think I wrote all of those stories. And so that I got really involved in writing Perm fan fiction. And that was a very interesting like school, I guess, to come up because I learned so much about certain parts of the craft of writing through writing
Mhm.
porn fan fiction. But then other parts I didn't learn as much, right? I didn't really learn so much about world building because the world was already built. But I learned so much about how to create a character that was realistic, that was believable, that was flawed, that had mixed motivations, that, was an unreliable narrator, all of those things. And I learned how to work with other writers because most of these were collaborative storytelling
Oh, that's
experiences.
cool.
And I met Marisa Wolf.
Ta-da!
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So,
That's awesome.
do you want
Yeah.
to take it from there?
Yeah. Well, so my quick backup to that point, I was not as logical as Kacey, and this holds true in our lives to date. But when I was 6, I wrote my very first story about absurdly large potatoes. So all the things were there already, right? My love of carbs, my love of genre, my love of human animal companion stories, because it was Sarah and her giant dog. Clearly I had been reading like Clifford the Big Red Dog and James and the Giant Peach.
Yeah.
So, all the things. But my dad laminated it at work. And
Oh,
I was like, well, that's it. I'm going to be a writer. That's what I got to do. Like, you got to do it. I also fell madly in love with Pern around 10, somewhere in my preteen, early teen years when AOL was a thing. Onward we went to AOL fanfic. Kacey and I met not on AOL, as far as we know, but
Yeah.
later when they were play by email clubs, which was
Yeah.
even
oh,
a
that's cool.
stronger collaborative situation,
Yeah.
where you both did like email role playing for your characters, but you also did
Oh, that's
stories
cool.
for the zine. And so there were like, we have a third friend, Mary, who's amazing, who I probably wrote like 90% of my stories with. And then met Kacey, and I was like, well, now it's like 50-50. And like I wrote with other people and they were amazing, but I was like, I would like more stories here and I would like more. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Let's just do these.
That
So
was also my experience, right? Like I think Marisa was the one who invited me to the club with Mary. And I was
mm,
like, well, I'm just gonna write with Marisa all the time.
yeah.
And then I met Mary and I was like, oh, you're really
Oh
good
yeah.
too. Okay.
Also her. Yeah.
That's cool.
But it was so much fun. Like every time there was a deadline, Casey and I would be like, oh, we had these like 45 stories we're supposed to do. Do you want to do them? Yep. And then we would just like get them done real quick. And I would always be so proud of them.
Mhm.
And so then I don't know, this is like 10, 15 years in. We're not going to do that time math right now. But
Mhm.
years in, um, Kacey, you should probably tell this part, but basically Kacey, because again, she like sets her mind to a thing and she does the thing. She's like, you know what? I have loved writing in Pern and I will keep doing it, but I want to tell my own stories. I want to get published. I want to like make that happen. And she did in like months. So she went ahead and did that. And I will let her tell that part. But I will say she would send me her stories. And I was a very happy alpha reader and I would read them and love them. And she sent me this one called Gilded Cage that I loved. And she's like, yeah, do you like it? And I was like, I like it so much. This is so cool. I love this part and this part and that part. She was like, yeah, no, cool. Do you want to write a novel about it with me? Like an actual for publication novel. And my brain was just like white noise. Um, and I said yes, obviously, because you say yes to that. And I didn't panic until like 6 hours later. But I said yes. And so the short version is I'm a published author because of Pern fan fiction and Kacey Ezell. So here we are.
I'm so mad that nobody told me that AOL had like a Pern community. Like I'm
Oh
so
my
disappointed.
gosh.
It was so
Yeah.
fun.
So
It was
disappointed
so
in
fun.
fantasy peeps in Michigan. Like
Those
how many
forums,
like
Yeah.
oh
such good
I
times.
feel like
Yeah.
I missed out on like a whole age of awesomeness there. So
The
because like
internet.
Pern and then also like T.A. Barron's like his Merlin series
Oh yeah.
were like the first like I would say like real fantasy books. You have like all sorts of stuff, right?
Mhm.
When you're growing up as a kid, but like I would say like those are the first like middle grade or after that, like, anything that was more like young adultish in terms
Mhm.
of, fantasy that I read and I absolutely loved. And I same thing though, Casey. I just assumed that I was gonna ride a dragon when I was older because my parents told me you could be anything you want to be. So
Yeah. Giant
um,
dragon.
Right.
yeah, I hope
Yeah.
that, I hope that at some point, you get to, name your vehicle, like a dragon from Pern or something like that. That'd just be like the dragon riders, but like being helicopter pilots would just like my mind's a whirling right now. So I think that's yeah, but that's awesome. That's super cool. I'm always teasing my two of my best friends that love books and like, you guys want a co-author? You guys want? And they're like, no, we see the craziness you do. They're like, there's no way. So,
Just commit to the crazy, friends.
yeah,
So-
exactly.
So in that story, a couple of things about that story, right? So first of all, I really do have to give credit where credit is due. I did not just decide to get published and then get published like that. I got very, very lucky, right? So I had made friends so I started going to this convention called Dragon Con because of course I did. Again, because of Pern fan fiction, honestly, is the reason I went the first time. And it's huge science fiction fantasy fan extravaganza in Atlanta every year. And one year when I went, I made the acquaintance of a gentleman by the name of John Ringo, who writes military science fiction. And we got to talking, and he's a pretty well-known mil sci-fi author. We got to talking and became friends, and he picked my brain about some helicopter stuff for some of his stories. And then when I was deployed to Iraq in 2009, I get this email from him that's like, hey, I just got tapped with a project of editing an anthology of military science fiction stories by military veterans. And we're doing a bunch of reprints with like Heinlein and Arthur C. Clarke and stuff, but I want to include some new voices. And I know you write. Do you have anything? And like Marisa said, right, there are certain questions you don't say no to, right? Like, would you like to consult your lawyer? Well, yes, I would.
In fact,
would you like a stick of gum? Yes, please. Do you want to write a professional short story for me? Absolutely, I do.
Let's do it. Absolutely, I do.
So I told John, I was like, no, I don't, but I will. And like 24 hours later, I sent him the first draft of a story that became my first pro sale. And then subsequent to that, he kind of introduced me to the people over at Bain. He invited me to, a couple years later, he invited me to contribute a short story in his own universe, in his zombie apocalypse universe. And that was sort of my big break, if you will, that was writing in John Ringo's zombie apocalypse universe, the Black Tide Rising universe. Because of that, that story was what brought me to the attention of Chris Kennedy and Mark Wandry of Chris Kennedy Publishing and the Four Horsemen universe. And so when they invited me to contribute a story for their anthology, I wrote Gilded Cage. And they loved it. And they said, we would love it if you would like to do a novel. I was already working on a co-authored project with John and another guy by the name of Christopher L. Smith that became the novel Gunpowder and Embers that came out in 2019. We were already working on that. And I also had like my own solo project that I was working on the side. And so I was like, writing 3 novels at once seems real hard. Let me phone a friend. So I was, but I knew Marisa and I knew what she was like. I knew how good she was, and I knew how to write with her because we had done all of that work together in Pern fan fiction. So I was a little sneaky, and I sent her the story hoping she'd love it. And I figured she would, because I kind of know what's her taste, and she's always very encouraging and very complimentary about my work. And she, she was like, yeah, this is fantastic. I love this. And I was like, yeah, you like the character? She's like, oh my God, I love the characters. I'm like, cool. Let's write a novel. And she, it was funny because I could hear the static when she was just like, what?
Like a real one?
Yeah, like a real one.
Drag you down with her.
I love
it. I will. So anyway, that is how we got together to start writing Assassin. Yeah.
That's really cool. It's just so funny. So I just want to point out to the audience, like, I always have people ask me these questions. They're, like, how do I go do this? How do I go do that? And I'm like, I just went to PAX this last weekend on Sunday, and we were busy. We had like a family event. My wife wasn't feeling the best. Like, there's all sorts of stuff. I have a 2-year-old, but we were still there. My wife's like, let's just go for a couple hours. I'm like, that was my goal, right? Because I would at some point like to get some of my own fantasy world. I have one in particular. Like, I really want to get it into a game and like make it into a game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And my friends recently were like, one of my friends was like, oh, I used to do scripts. So years ago, I almost sold one. I decided not to. It was dumb. I was like 17. I'm like, You could have had credit for something, you know, and $7,000 to do for college or whatever. But like, I would have liked the professional thing. But like, you know, it was fun because he's like more and more. And I actually talked to Justin Anderson about this yesterday. He's like, he does scripts and stuff. And, you know, I'm like thinking to myself, like, if you want to write games, you have to go talk to people, right, that do that, you know?
Games, yeah.
Yeah, right. And you have to go to shows, talk to people. So I kind of went just to kind of see if it was something, you know, like I would be into. And I was like, oh my God, I had so much fun. And my wife was like, oh, you're like a kid in a candy store. So it's funny that you mentioned that, Casey, you know, because, you know, in terms of going to Dragon Con. So I just want to point out to our audience that like, there are things that you can definitely do, right, to help yourself out. I happen to run a podcast. I happen to run a podcast where I met Sarah Chorn, who helped me out for developmental editing and emergency situation because, you know, her and I chat quite a bit and I love her work. I think she's amazing. She's like a goddess of editing. Like, oh my God, was it
Oh, we
amazing?
love that. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man, holy moly. And then, but you know, like I had like H.L. Tinsley that I had on a couple times, came one of my alpha readers, Logan D. Irons, same thing. And Logan and I are very similar, like both I don't want to give too much away because you know he is he you know he has a pen name and there's certain things he likes to keep private. But let's just say that him and I have a lot of things in common. So without this podcast, though, you know, putting myself out there, nothing would have happened. So I just want to point out, like going to Dragon Con definitely helped you, right, Casey, and then that helped Marisa
Yeah.
too. So it's just interesting, right? Just to point out, I think that if you really want things to happen, you know, you want to make big changes. I think you have to make big changes, you know. So that's where I was like, my wife's like, you've been trying to go to this thing for like 5-6 years. Like, we're going to be in town. Let's just at least go for a couple hours. And I got quite a few cards for people, you know, who I might want, you know, like approach and stuff. So I just wanted to mention that. So I thought that was interesting. But
I would double down on that too. And I would think about, so a lot of writers are introverts. I am not. But I have gotten more introverted as I've gotten older. But so Dragon Con might not be the place to go for professional contacts because it's 85,000 people. It doesn't mean it's not. It doesn't mean you can't still meet people and have conversations, but you might, it's very expensive. It's very big. Go as a nerd, go to have fun. And then like, you know, over time maybe. But there are so many small, amazing cons where you really have a chance to talk to people. So there's Liberty Con in Chattanooga. There is, I think Dragonsteel just happened in Utah with Brandon Sanderson. There are writing seminars, like Superstars, like there's all kinds of things out there where you can go and talk to industry professionals, and not in like a creepy, please talk to me and hire me for jobs kind of way, but in a like genuinely get to know them. And if you're like a kid in a candy store, that enthusiasm is contagious. And you never know when one of those conversations could become something down the line. Like I had somebody drop out and I need somebody in an anthology. Oh, I just talked to that person at that con. Let's just see what they've got. Like, strongly recommend.
Yeah. The major benefit that I've seen from conventions is that networking piece, right? But like Marisa said, you kind of, when it comes to conventions, and we're veering a little bit away from your questions, but I think this is an important topic, right? As part of the business of being a creative individual. When it comes to gatherings like conventions and seminars and things like that, like Marisa said, there's such a wide variety of offerings available. So what you really got to ask yourself is, where am I in my career? What do I need to take that next step? And then the step after that. And which of these, you know, these offerings is going to line up with that and to give me those opportunities. Also, like kind of the caveat on that, or the corollary to that, is that having fun and being enthusiastic and excitement and feeling excitement about things is a perfectly valid career objective, because this shit is too hard to do if you don't love it.
Yes, my
It really is, you know? So if going to Dragon Con and dressing up in cosplays and, you know, staying out until all hours of the night in Atlanta with 85,000 of your closest friends is one of those things that refills your creative well, that makes you excited to, you know, go and write stories and go and, like, you know, live in these imaginary worlds that you've created, then absolutely it's worth it. Go. Good luck in getting, you know, good luck getting a room for the Hunger Games, right? Like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Join us. Join us.
join us. May the
Yeah.
odds be ever in our favor. But if that's not going to do that for you, and you're not at a point in your career where, you know, you're going to reap significant benefits from going, then choose something else. Choose something that is smaller. Choose something that is more tailored towards what you need in your career. You can also, like, you know, Dragon Con is a fan convention. Liberty Con is also a fan convention. There are some really, really fantastic, what's the word I'm looking for? Like writer conferences, seminar type writer conferences that are out there, that, you know, can really, really supercharge your career, both from a learning your craft and, you know, learning tricks of the trade and business perspective, but also from a networking perspective, right? I went to 2 years ago, I went to 20 Books, 50K, it's now called Author Nation in Las Vegas. And I made some fantastic contacts just from, you know, just from going there. I met Mallory Cooper. She writes the Aeon 14 series. I met her there in the bathroom.
That's also how I met her at Superstars.
But yeah, I mean, networking is an important part of the business, and it's fantastic. Those types of opportunities are fantastic for it. So don't overlook that piece of it.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that though, like with Marisa, like what you were saying, excuse me, for like, I guess I should be clear. I've been going to conventions for a long time, and we're talking about like local ones. And like before the pandemic, I would have had a graphic novel came out with a guy, like local guy, from one of our conventions that I met, and really like one of our smallest ones. But like it was just like, you know, but like we had met, right? We had planned, we were gonna do the thing. Pandemic happened. Kind of glad we didn't then, right? Like drop all of our money in at that time that we needed for things like paying bills and things.
Cheese and Pete.
But I think it's I think you're both right that it's like, where are you at? So I guess I should mention PAX was not my first one. That was like my upgrade. Does that make sense?
Leveled up.
Yeah. And I didn't even really do too much. I was just kind of taking, you know, like the lay of the land. But I do agree, like there's so many people I've talked to locally and stuff, and like people know me now locally. You know, I go to and they're like, oh hey, you know, and I, you know, see the same people and stuff. But what you were saying, Kacey, too, like R.R. Birdie mentioned, I think he went to the same convention too. Or you know, like 20 Books, and I think if I remember,
also right, Superstars. Yeah, he's done both.
Where he met oh my God, I'm gonna blank on his name, but he met his like original agent and stuff. So that was just like, you know, one other example. So I do know people, and he was like same thing, like just sitting by somebody, starts talking about the first binding, like the idea and stuff, and then like 4 months later, bam,
contract.
You know, the rest is it's kind of crazy.
And I will also, to tie it back to our topic of co-authoring, if you have a co-author, you can go to cons with a co-author and you have a partner in crime. And it, not gonna lie, makes it way more fun. Because again, I am an extrovert. If you're not, go ahead and get you an extrovert. But you can, even if there's just two of you and you were two introverts or you were two extroverts or you're a mixed pair, whatever, it's so much easier going to things with a buddy. And it is so much fun. We have seen this in a bunch of different ways. Like I can talk up Kacey way better than I can talk up myself or my work. And so and then I mean similar, Kacey does it really, and I do the same. Me up. Yeah. So like if we both go places, when we leave, people are like, oh my God, they're both amazing, but we never had to sell ourselves, which I love.
That's awesome.
And I have found that to be very effective and way fun too, because then you can be like, thanks, amazing co-author. I feel the same way. Like, get you a co-author, guys.
That's awesome. It's so funny you mentioned that, because if anybody's on the East Coast, particularly Northwest, I am putting together the East Coast Avengers, as I like to call them. It's like a bunch of us are going to start going to cons and things like that together. Probably starting next fall. I'm in Central New York. Sorry, Northeast. Sorry. I'm really tired. I got we have I think 6 of us, like C.L. Snyder, JCM Byrne, James Lloyd Doolin, R.R. Birdie. And I have 2 other people that joined my list. So I'm slowly putting people together. So if anybody's near us, like
we're in Massachusetts.
Yeah, we're in Mass.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. So
I was like, wait,
I'm gonna have to put you down on the private group then. So but it'd be cool. So We have to. Casey, where are you like located? Or are you just gonna come with us?
Central Mass. Yeah.
Also
Oh,
nice.
I live
perfect.
20
Okay,
minutes from
sweet.
Marisa.
I
So
I may or
awesome.
may not have manifested my life, and she may or may not have manifested her life. So I'm from here, but I've been
Yeah.
gone for 20 years. And then Casey got here, and like 6 months later, weirdly, I moved here too. So
Oh,
so
that's awesome.
strange how that works.
Awesome. Well, hold on one sec. I'm gonna add you
Yeah,
to the
just go
group
ahead and
then.
jot that down.
That's so cool. Yeah, I'm like really excited. It was supposed to be like this fall, and then my work life just went crazy.
Sure.
Yeah.
We're doing a lot of positive things, guys. Don't worry, but I
Yeah,
don't
it's
have the brain
great.
power to go anywhere. So yeah, but that's actually super exciting because we were talking about possibly this spring, trying to pick something, or like I know like our Verdi, like I was trying to go meet him up at New York Comic Con, and then it just happened to be like the worst work week. Like I had like this
Yeah.
huge event and
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, I'll add you guys. That's really exciting
Yeah,
though.
let's talk
I'm gonna try
offline
and
about some
yeah,
things.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
for
try to
sure.
talk
Yeah.
about some spring or summer stuff. But
Oh,
you know, I
cool.
agree. It's like I always talk to Michael R. Fletcher is not too far from me. Like he's in Canada, but
Mhm.
yeah, I'm in New York State, so it's like
Yeah.
really like what's 4 hours, right? Do I really want to go
Yeah.
to see my in-laws, or do I want to see Michael R. Fletcher? You
Sure, but both.
know,
Yeah. Why not both?
Yeah.
so he's always
Yeah.
teasing me. He's like, "You want to go to Toronto Comic Con?" He's like, "Let me know. I'm pretty close there." He goes, "I buy you a pint, and we can go and hang out." So that's really
That's
exciting.
super
So I
cool.
am going to add
Yeah.
you both to that. I'll be
Heck yeah.
contacting
Nice.
people shortly. So that's really
Great.
awesome. Well, that's just a crazy, like, like how your guys' like co-authoring story worked out. I hope one day to have a fun, like, how'd you two meet as co-authors? I hope to have a cool story like that too.
We're
Like really
manifesting it for
jealous.
you.
I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
I
we
like
are.
my
We
wife
are.
was just asking me. She's like, "Can't you just do this and then do these stories with somebody else?" I was like, "I'm really gonna try." So I was like, "Unfortunately, I gotta
Just
like
do it.
have some time to meet someone," as I like to tease her all the time.
Yeah.
She's
Relationships do
like,
matter for real. Yeah.
"Yeah."
They
My wife
do.
was like,
Yeah.
"Please be a co-author soon, so you can stop talking to me about the books." So
Tell
I
her to
think I'm
be slightly
ready now.
careful. Yeah, but tell her to be slightly careful what she wishes for, because both of our husbands joke question mark about how codependent we are. So
That's
just,
fair.
be ready.
Sells the books though,
Yeah.
right? Like get some
Hey,
public.
it's working. We wrote a whole novel in like 3 weeks recently. So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yep.
amazing.
Yeah.
All right, I'm already jealous. Don't keep making me
Sorry,
jealous.
sorry.
That's really awesome though. So speaking of books, this kind of like leads us right into there. Do you mind telling us, just in general, like your genre or genres currently together as co-authors and why those genres?
Yeah,
Yeah.
gonna go first.
Sure. So I identify as genre fluid.
Nice. I
I
like that.
write, I kind of got started in like post-apocalyptic and military science fiction, because I do have a military background. I served 23 years in the Air Force. That was the whole like Dragon Rider helicopter thing. Um, and then recently I branched out into space opera, which is what's behind me here. And I also have like I'm also a huge history nerd. So I have like this ongoing love affair with alternate history. My most recent release, actually, which you can't see, it's out of frame, but is an alternate history that I co-wrote with two other co-authors. I have a lot of
Oh, cool.
co-authors.
We're all same.
Yeah, we get around on the co-author circuit. Let's just put it that
Marissa's
way.
like, I'm number one though.
To be
She
clear,
is.
I am.
She
Yeah.
is.
Thanks.
She is. But yes, so science fiction, space opera, alternate history, and then I'm also my current work in progress is a lit RPG,
Oh, cool.
fantasy deck building type project. And then I have a fantasy adventure, the first in a series of at least 4 books that's coming out next May. So I am all over the place when it comes to what I write. My most recent book with Marisa is actually in this space opera series. I think that one was particularly suited. This universe is particularly suited to co-writing with Marisa because it's got a lot of the stuff that we both love. In terms of the setting is rife with like interstellar, interplanetary politics and corruption and family dynamics and things like that. And I love those things, right? So I talk all the time about how I am my first audience member. I write the stories that I want to read.
Mhm.
I love those things, and I love reading stories about those things. And I love reading Marisa's stories about those things because she's really good at writing about those things. And I know this about her because I've read stories like involving all of those aspects, you know, from her, whether they were Pern fan fiction stories or her more recent, you know, her own work. So, you know, when it came time to when we created this universe, I was like, hey, I want to write another book in it, and I was like, hey, girl, you got 3 weeks, let's do this.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I
To
mean,
be fair, I
yeah.
can only do that when I'm writing with Marisa, though, so far. Yeah.
Yeah.
This book, Blood of Her Father, is the one that we wrote together. It comes out in
Mhm.
January. Or actually, by the time this airs, it will have been
It'll
out
be
for a
out.
couple months already.
Go treat yourself.
Yeah. So go get it. It's fantastic. But writing Blood of Her Father in 3 weeks is my record. Previous to that, my shortest was 1 month with Chris Kennedy, who's another one of my co-authors for that series.
Yeah.
So.
So I too have a lot of co-authors. But I started with Kacey. She's my forever number one. And it's different. It's everything. It's different with everyone. That's why I'm saying, like, prioritize the relationship with your co-author. I know there are people out there who can do it. Like, we've never actually met, we've never actually spoken. We just planned this over email and did it. And like, power to them. That is not my experience. I need to know the person that I write with. I can get to know them through the writing, but we've got to talk. But so I am just basically a big old nerd. My dad raised me as a nerd. I have been a nerd since I was born. I'm pretty sure the first thing he ever showed me was Star Wars. So, you know, here we are. So if it's sci-fi, if it's fantasy, whatever flavor of that, I've written a little bit of horror also with Kacey. I have written some fae stuff. I am working right now on I'd say middle fantasy. I don't think it's not epic fantasy. It's not sword and sorcery. It's somewhere like right in the middle fantasy, somewhere in between.
It's almost dark fantasy.
It's almost dark fantasy, which is a different story. But that is a make fun of Marisa later and her professional authorness. But I love the genre blending of things. I like taking this is something I've stolen from either David Weber or Larry Correia, but taking the furniture from one genre and putting it in the room of another. So putting a little noir in my sci-fi, or getting like deep into conspiracy stuff in a sci-fi space opera, mill sci-fi mashup. That is my jam. I love that stuff. And one of the many reasons I love working with Kacey about anything is it's always character first. So whoever the character is, that voice, that everything else forms around them. Kacey is incredibly good at that. She can make you understand a character in like 2 lines of dialogue. And so I love that. I love writing with her for that. But anything I write is character first and then wackiness around it.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, totally forgot to mention this earlier, but Blood of Her Father is actually on my 2025 reading list. So I am so behind, but I have to get these videos done by next Thursday.
Understand.
Because I'm going on vacation.
Yeah,
but I will be I totally forgot to mention that. I will be sending you guys the link for that, because you guys will be in the first set there. Trying for 40 next year if I get more, whatever. But I'll be talking about that book in particular as part of my reading list, as part 1 of my reading list for 2025. So I'm going to divide it up. So I have that one that
awesome.
I'm really excited about. I saw that, I don't know, because I didn't see it on your Facebook, Risa, but I saw it somewhere else, and I was like, wait a minute.
I did post it somewhere.
I know,
Yeah.
but I saw it somewhere else first, and then I felt like lied to. I was like, why is the algorithm not showing me? And then it was so funny because I had just thought that. And then I hours went by, I got home from work, and then as soon as I went to Facebook, you had just posted about it. But I thought it was so funny, because it must have just been like one of those algorithm days or something like that. But God, I love that cover. I love the blur.
I know.
So
I was
Sam
like,
Kennedy.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's amazing.
Sam Kennedy is the artist. He did all of the covers for, this is the first one in the series.
That.
Yeah.
They're
And
so
they're
good.
so beautiful.
That's one of my favorite covers that I've seen within the last year. Like they both are, but that
yeah.
one in
Me
particular.
too. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Thank
But
you.
I
Me
love
too.
the color though of your guys's though. I
Yeah.
just because
Oh
I
my
was like,
gosh.
oh, this is cool, and I was like, oh, cool, like the same art and stuff. But I wasn't expecting the colors. If that
It
makes
is so
sense.
gorgeous.
Yeah, I showed it to my
Love it.
mom actually because my mom's a graphic designer. She's actually an interior designer now, but she got me into illustrating and stuff. I was
Oh,
actually
very
a really
cool.
illustrator. Yeah, I'm like nobody
Oh,
asked me to do anything. I'm way out of
that's
practice.
amazing. Yeah, fair enough.
That's
That is
awesome,
One
though.
of these
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
days, one of
Yeah.
these days, I'm like trying to relearn Photoshop and different things and get back into it at some point. But I do have a 2-year-old, so I got to write some books.
Fair. Yeah.
Isn't that funny how often that becomes something like it's just like it's a reason in and of itself.
Yeah, it's enough.
Like
It's full
lately,
explanation. Yeah.
yeah, like lately and he's amazing, like, and he's really well behaved. But like, it's just like he is smarter than me,
They're just a
and
lot. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
and like,
factors.
but like,
Yeah.
I just was not expecting. I was expecting him to be smarter than me, but not by that much. And I have to like
You thought you had time. Yeah.
right? Yeah, I
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
have to
Yeah.
constantly try and keep them up. Like, schools do an amazing job and stuff. But yeah, people ask me, they're like, why isn't this out for you? I go, I'm an independent author. I'm
Yeah.
like,
And
who
I have a
cares?
2-year-old. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, who cares? I'm like, I
Yeah.
can post later,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, but I said to my mom, I was like, this was just like, that's the type of art where I'm just like, the artist in me screams to want to, to relearn and to get better and to do something like that. But that's like, I feel like the same with writing too, like right now I'm like, I want to write better because I know I have certain art skills, so nowhere near that, but I know how to do certain things, but that
Yeah.
one in particular, I was like, oh my God, the color scheme on this thing. It was like one
Yeah,
of 3 that I
love it.
showed my mom. I was like, this is just like, she goes, I'm surprised that people are doing like, like this style and this
Oh, yeah.
nowadays. She was just blown away by like the color scheme and stuff. So it
Yeah.
was really, really cool. And she's a
That's so nice.
professional. She went to
Yeah.
Kendall School of Design,
Oh, my
people.
goodness.
Okay. Like
She
that's
knows
one
what
of the
she's talking
top in the
about.
nation. Yeah,
That's
she
it.
knows what she's
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
So just saying it was really cool. But I
Yeah.
showed her the other one too, just the Queen's Fixer, and she was like, I could see why you like that. I'm like, yeah, like it's almost like I get my art taste from you or something.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, it's weird how that works.
Yeah.
Went to the same
Yeah.
museums and stuff. But
Yeah.
it's really
With
cool.
so this whole series it's a like a sweeping space opera sandbox is really what it is, right? So
Oh, cool.
with the cover art, when I was talking with Sam about cover concepts and what we wanted, I told him that I was like, I need a little bit of like a throwback to like some of the really sweeping cover art of the
Yeah,
80s and
yeah.
90s, where you would have you'd have the figures in the
The
foreground,
Michael
but then
Whalen look, right? Like just
yeah. But then like this massive vista
epic. Yeah.
of with like planets and spaceships and these incredible cities and whatnot in the background. And so yeah, Sam he's fantastic to work with. Highly recommend working with him if you can get him, but he's very busy, so good luck with that.
Yeah.
But,
No. It's like my forever request now.
yeah. But he is like he just got it right. He was like, oh yeah, and he was very enthusiastic about it, and he took my whole with the cityscape, I specifically wanted it to be futuristic, but also a callback to like medieval Europe. And he was like, so sort of like a gothic spaceshipy type vibe. And I was like, yes, exactly. That's exactly it. And that is what he delivered, So yeah, it was I cannot I could talk for hours about how much I love these covers.
Well, it's like him and like, people ask, I had a kid ask me today because they was asking about stuff like that. They're like, what do you think? And I was like, so I pulled up the Queen's Fixer actually. This was like a couple weeks ago now. And then I totally forgot about your guys'. I should have showed. I'll have to do that like next week or tomorrow or something. They'll be blown away. But I was like showing them also like Chris McGrath. I have some kids that I think could be the next,
Nice.
Sam or Chris,
Nice.
and a couple of our girls in particular. And it's like, it kind of stinks. Like we're tech, but I'm like, I want them to, I wish I had done digital art because I love it, and I would have just been into it, and I think if we help them, find the right path, right? I always tell people like, artists don't make money. I'm like, that's weird because mine makes my money,
Right.
He's great, like, don't get me wrong, and I'm like, I think you should charge more. Don't tell Caleb I said so.
Yeah.
And
Nice.
my cover artist too, like does a great job, and
Yeah.
I always tip him because he doesn't charge enough. But I'm like,
Yeah.
it's weird, you know. But yeah, like I show them, they're like, these are amazing. I'm like, I
Yeah.
know, and it's like, but it's crazy, I think, right? To where you could, you know, say something like that and they come up with that. And like Felix Ortiz is
Mhm.
one of those, you know. I had some of the female artists for Magic the Gathering I've been courting to try and, you know, get on here to
Yeah.
show their art. I'm like, I had
Oh yeah.
It's amazing.
one person, she was from El Salvador, and I think she was just kind of worried about, you know, like language barrier and stuff. But I mean, her art was just incredible. I put it up in my, I'm gonna put it up in my office. I had to take it down because we had to repair a wall. My wife's like, I can't believe, like, she's like, you just found this person on Twitter. I'm like, yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
But I'm really jealous of that cover, and Casey, I'm jealous of Sam just in general. So that's really, really awesome. Well, I'm really excited for that book in particular, though. If I could fit in your other guys' series too,
Fair.
I'm like
Yeah.
trying to figure it out. I'm like trying to.
We're patient. Get to it when you get to it. You're gonna love
Well,
it
I just didn't
regardless. So.
realize. I don't know,
Yeah.
because I had originally wanted you guys on for excuse me, I'm like losing my voice, for Blood of Her Father, so I didn't even think to put the, you know, the other series on my list. So but I do want to talk about that one too. Can you tell us a little bit about that one as well, just so our audience, you know, is kind of aware of that series as well?
Of the
Queen's Fixer?
no, the Assassin series.
Oh,
Yes,
Assassin?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Assassin, it's a 3-book series, but they're not really listed that way on Amazon, right?
I thought it was
because
just me. Okay.
No.
Yeah, no, because they're a larger series within the overall Four Horsemen universe. So the
Yeah,
Four
yeah,
Horsemen universe is a military science fiction series that was created by Mark Wandry and Chris Kennedy as a shared world universe. And Marisa and I wrote our books focusing on a particular alien species known as the Devik. They are the world's deadliest assassins, and they very much the galaxy's deadliest assassins, and they very much resemble Earth cats, and there are reasons for that you come to later in the series. But imagine, you know, cats that can be quadrupedal or bipedal, have opposable thumbs on all 4 feet, can turn invisible, and are intelligent enough to create a spacefaring society.
Yeah.
And but they're still the cuddly sociopaths that we, you know and love as our house pets.
Yeah.
So that, and there you have the galaxy's deadliest hunters. So the 3 books are Assassin, Hunter, and Ally. And it, through the course of the overall larger arc of the Four Horsemen universe, these 3 books kind of show up in different places, sort of in order to give a different view of the main events, if that makes sense.
They can be read alone.
Yes, they can be
cool.
100% read as standalones.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, because the overall, like the whole series is like 92 books or something crazy like that. Yeah. And it's fantastic.
You're gonna want to read it, but
you're gonna want to read them
these
all
first. Yeah.
But if you're going thematically, yeah, you might want to, you can just read Assassin, Hunter, and Ally. We also did an anthology called Negotiation, where we invited other people writing in the Four Horsemen universe to give us stories of the Devik after a certain point in, after certain events in the overall arc happens. So I would recommend reading Assassin. Definitely read Hunter before you read Assassin.
Yeah.
Or before you read, sorry, I just confused
Read
everybody.
Assassin, Hunter, Negotiation if you want, then Ally.
Then Ally, yes. Thank you, Marisa.
Yeah, I got you.
This is why you need a co-author.
Teamwork. Yeah. Yeah. And Negotiation, we got some, oh my God, we got such incredible stories. So John R. Osborne, who's a big author at TKP, Jody Lynn Nye, who is amazing, DJ Butler, Jonathan Brazy, just like a lot of really great folks.
It was stacked.
Yeah, it was stacked.
Some heavy hitters in that book.
Yeah,
so
it's pretty good.
That's cool. I was curious about that though, because I was trying to figure out last night, and I was like, oh, Hunter, Assassin, and then I was like, I got to add one of these because it just sounded awesome. So
yeah, thanks. I know I have them behind me, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was like. I'm gonna have to add them twice to this list now, because like I said, I totally forgot about that you guys did those because I was thinking, of her father. So I was like, oh, that's really cool. Yeah, so I think that just sounds because I was like, I love cat
Cat
people.
assassins.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
cat assassins just sounds
I mean, can't go
absolutely
wrong, really.
amazing. So
Also, today, the day we're recording this, it will not affect you as watchers, but the day we're recording this is the 7-year anniversary. Is that right? 3. Yeah, gross. Of the cover reveal for Assassin.
oh,
Oh,
wow. Okay.
did Facebook tell you that?
Yeah,
Oh,
it
that's
popped up on
awesome.
my
Oh,
Facebook
that's
today, and I was like,
fun.
oh, that's so cute.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
I-
Happy anniversary, guys. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
Very first
I
cover.
do remember, speaking of covers, I do remember revealing that cover because I was in love with it. It was,
So much,
we
yeah.
specifically
Oh,
wanted,
they're awesome.
yeah, we wanted to maintain some of the aesthetic of the Four Horsemen universe covers with the Casper on the front, to kind of tie it in.
The big neck, yeah.
Yeah, but then we also had we wanted to indicate the presence of these shadowy cat assassins. So we have a cat shadow featured prominently. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I have been so lucky. I don't think I've had a single cover, like knock on wood, that I have not
Your-
shrieked in joy over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of your covers are really good.
My covers have been
Yeah.
amazing. Like Beyond Enemies,
Yeah.
also Sam Kennedy. That cover was nominated for a Dragon Award last year because it's
Oh,
just
man.
It's
godly.
gorgeous.
So yeah, these artists. Thank you, artists. Thank you, editors. You make this work. Love you.
Which is great when we're trying to point out to people that when you're reviewing a book or a product,
Yeah.
like there's multiple people involved.
Oh yeah.
That do better, and companies in particular, right? Like make decisions based off of these reviews and not just the selling of products, but reviews of products too. So
Oh yeah.
no, I just keep saying it over and over and over again. But I'm gonna keep saying it over and over again because I literally had people from traditionally published, companies who are like privately telling me like, hey, I need like more reviews. Like sales are here, whatever. Like, but it's just reviews help everybody,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I have people on here that
They
aren't just
matter so
authors,
much.
Yeah, like I have voice actors, I have comic people, I have some game people like coming on really soon. That's really important, particularly for Kickstarter,
Oh my
right?
gosh,
To
yeah.
be like, hey,
Yeah.
products we love or Kickstarters we love or whatever,
Yeah.
to get that moniker and stuff. So
Yep.
I think that just is super important. But both,
Agreed.
I say all those sound amazing. I love the covers for both. And you guys both have amazing covers just in general, I have to say. So
Thanks.
Yeah.
like just in general, I'm like, oh, this company's doing really well lately. I've seen some really good stuff. So I think that's really cool. Speaking of needing somebody to help, sorry about that. I was like blanking on the Four Horsemen Tales books. That's what I was gonna say. And
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I exited out of my
Your questions.
like
All good.
I was trying to
We
find
got
it
there.
without searching. But I'm curious at what you two look for first when you're crafting a new story together.
Oh.
I think
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say Marisa kind of said it. I think for we both write character driven fiction, so we usually start with a character, right? A character in a situation with a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the character? What is the situation? Why is it a problem? And then we start talking about it, and then things go off the rails.
A lesson that we learned writing Assassin. We did have to learn this lesson several
a couple times.
It's fine though. We get so excited when we're brainstorming. This is another thing that I strongly recommend co-authors for. Because I've always heard like writing is such a lonely profession, but I do not find that to be true in my experience, in large part because of the number of co-authors I've had. But Kacey and I will sit and brainstorm a story and rock it out. And I've never been more excited about anything in my entire life.
It'll be so brilliant.
So good. And then we don't write it down.
So
then we have to come back because we're so excited and talking that we don't write it down. And then we have to redo it. But then it's still the most exciting, amazing thing I've ever heard in my whole life. And sometimes it takes us a third try, but eventually one of us is like, shut up with your brilliant face. I need to write this down. Hold on.
Please hold. Yeah.
Please hold.
And so I used to have to commute to work, a fair amount. And so I would often, call my friends and chit chat. And that became like prime brainstorming time because I called Marisa and we would talk about it. But I'd be driving and we'd be halfway through and she'd be like, just stop.
Yeah.
I gotta, let me write this down.
In
That's
our
awesome.
defense, the first time we brainstormed, we were both commuting because I lived in Houston at the time, and
Yes.
there was no short commute, right? It was only traffic. So we're both
Yeah.
driving. So we're both like, we'll totally remember this. We'll totally remember. Narrator voice. They did not
No,
remember
they
this.
did not remember. We
So
remembered
48
some
hours
things,
later.
but
yeah.
yeah.
We got the high level.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's
It was-
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So it's the enthusiasm.
write the brainstorming down,
Write the
guys.
brainstorm down. Yeah.
Or you know
We'll
what?
record it.
Take a video. I don't know. Yeah.
I was gonna say my friends they live like you guys said, like you were here, and like my friends live, I think they could throw a stone, to each other's house, but they'll still Zoom just to get the recording done.
That's
get the
smart,
recording.
though.
Yeah.
That's smart. Yeah.
And then at one point it was so funny because my friend goes, I'm gonna send you this our co-author notes. And I was like, is that legal? He goes, no, don't worry about it. It's nothing to do with the story
not
that hasn't
legal.
come out yet. Well, because they're traditionally
Yeah,
published,
yeah.
So and it wasn't out yet. So he just sent me this video of his co-author leaving the room. He goes, I gotta come to your house. And that was the only clip he sent me. And he just and his Zoom's just recording. So finally
Yeah, he's still there on his empty chair until he shows up on the other camera.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
And then literally, like, he's like, is he going? And he's like, my friend's talking to himself, and then you hear, and then he's like, oh my God, he's here. And it was just like that whole like segment was like, I died. I was like, you guys really
That is
do live
amazing.
really close. He goes, it's like 5 blocks. He goes, he ran here. And then they like cut it out, whatever, and like recorded in person. I just thought it was so funny. So just saying, you guys will get cool co-author papers like that.
Yeah. Great
That's
stories,
hilarious.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
That's
awesome.
hilarious.
I won't tell anybody who. But yeah, it was really cool. That's just awesome. But it's funny where you're saying, Kacey, like, with your guys' process, and I know it kind of seems redundant and it seems like duh, but it's funny because with how you just said that, like I've had several, teams of co-authors, and everybody does it completely different, kind of like Marisa, like you were saying earlier, and it's important, right, to be able to find that, which is why as I'm courting other authors, right, I'm like, and I had some people that I really, I know, like I really know, and I'm like, they're just too busy, so I kind of have to find, or maybe it'll work out later kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I just think it's important, like how you said it, Kacey, where it's like, you guys found, we both said, right, where you found what works for you, the best, and always record.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Record, yeah.
Always record. But
You're not the first ones that have also told me that they forgot to record. They were so into it. So that's like something I would do.
Sometimes you learn things the hard way. It's fine.
Yeah.
But it's different. Like I think the thing that really works in mine and Kacey's favor is how long we have worked together. And so there is such like a deep trust there of like we will plot a story out. And I feel like every project has been wildly different, like how we plot it, how we decide to write it. And this last one, we started thinking like, okay, we'll do it kind of like our first book where we each have our POV characters and we'll write those parts. And then we very heavily got to a place, we would do this sometimes in other projects, but in this one it's very much like, hey, you want to Pern fanfic this shit? Which is we write it in the same Google Doc together. So like we're tagging back and forth. So you like write until you get stuck basically, or until like you've set up a good thing for your co-author and then like, hey, take it. Yeah, let's go.
Oh, that's
and we would
cool.
just tag. It was so much fun. It was so much fun. And
it's almost like role playing, really, is what it is.
Yeah.
You're role
I
playing.
haven't heard anybody say that. That's awesome.
And so we're writing it like, dialogue is dialogue, right?
Yep.
So I can write,
cool.
that Isone said blah, 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 and, glared at her stepmother, tag. And then Marisa comes back in and has the stepmother's response, tag. And it was just like, it was really funny because we are in a group chat with a couple of other ladies that we know. And they knew that we were doing this. And so we would, we would literally say tag in that group chat. And they're like, what
is happening?
What are you doing? We're like,
just writing 5,000 words is what's happening. Like, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Well, and then occasionally, like Marisa would be something like, tag, Caroline is, Caroline's feeling sassy or whatever.
Yes.
Like we would have like our commentary in the group chat about what the characters were.
Chat.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
So that is a technique that if your strength is role playing, if you've done role playing games, particularly like tabletop role playing games, that's a technique that is fantastic. The only thing is you got to go back in and like edit it so you're not head
Smooth the
hopping,
narrative.
boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom. You know,
Yeah.
it's to put it in one cohesive point of view, one cohesive voice, with whatever point of view that you're choosing for that scene. I mean, even if you're trying to write something in Omniscient, you're gonna have to, fix it so that it's floated properly.
Yeah. I mean, and I'll say part of why we couldn't do that before, I mean, you've also got to be online at the same time to really make that work. Otherwise, you're writing like 2 lines and that's it. Before,
and waiting.
Before when we were writing our books, we would do it for like a scene or two because we'd be home at the same evening or the same weekend. But we were both working full time. Kacey was in a different country for one of our books. We were always in different time zones. This is our first time, same state, same time zone. So I don't think we could have done it before. And I would not recommend it for your first project together.
Yes.
So because it's too fast. And if you don't trust, because that's what I was starting to say when I took myself off topic here. You really have to trust your co-author. So we used to plan it out and then write the book. And we still mostly do that. But this last one, it was very much like, okay, we're writing it. What if this thing happens though? Or I thought we were going to do this, but let's do this other thing instead. And in this particular one, this is Kacey's universe. So I am a guest in her universe. And so, I mean, I don't think I would have said no to any of it anyway, because it was all great. But every single time I was like, heck yeah, let's make it happen. Like, let's do the thing.
Yeah.
So it's also, I say that for co-authors, if this is your shared IP, you want to get real clear on how you're going to make the decisions. For things, if like you do have a plan and then one of you has this brilliant idea and the other one's like, I don't know, like you want to be clear how you're going to make that decision. But
this sounds a little weird probably, but I would recommend that on any given project, I think it's better to have one co-author be considered the senior of the pair. That way you don't get into a situation where it's like, well, I want to do this. Well, I think that's dumb. I want to do this. And you butt heads and there's no decision-making authority there. And so it never gets resolved. To always be like, okay, well, you're senior on this project or you're the lead on this project. Just gives you the opportunity to be like, I don't know, man, I think we should do it the other way. Nah, I really want to do it that. Okay, well, you're the lead. So we'll see how it goes. And, if it doesn't work out, we can always go back and try the other thing.
Yeah.
So,
and in some cases that's real clear and real easy. Like I'll be working with David Weber. I don't get to outvote him on the Honor Harrington universe. There's no world in which that would happen. I also don't see that being an issue, but like it is important to know. And so like in this one, this is Kacey's universe. Ultimately, she's the one who's going to keep writing books in this. And I might pop in and pop out, but she gets to decide because she's got to own it. Right. And David Weber, Marisa Wolf, David Weber is the senior author. We don't have to talk about that. That is what it is. And
that is what it is.
We are real excited about that. So, but Kacey and I have this other world that we will write someday, 2026, who knows, that we have developed together. And I think at this point we have worked so well together. Like, I'm not worried about being like, oh, do you get a vote? Do I get a vote? Like, because we're going to get to the place that's best for the story. But again, the first time you work with somebody, the first couple of times you work with somebody, I don't think it's weird at all to say that, Kacey. I think it's a really important thing of like, and you don't have to say senior, junior. It could just be like lead, whatever. That's no different for royalties, unless they own the universe. That's no different for actual responsibilities, because I have fully co-authored every book that I've written. It's not one that I'm like, I'll just come in and I'll write the whole thing and you'll clean it up, or I'll write none of it, but we'll put my name on it, which is also the way it works sometimes. But I think the clearer you can be in a new relationship of any kind, friends, the better off you're going to be.
I have friends that they struggle to do a lead, I guess is the best way to put it. So when they really come up against that, since they're not near each other, there's no rock, paper, scissors, but they do flip a coin. Best 2 out of 3. But that's only for the most direst of needs. They actually made a coin.
They made a specific coin. That's adorable.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I like that.
And it's like the coin of death. I don't remember what they called it, but it's like the coin of death.
Coin
or
of
whatever.
decisions.
Something like that. And I was like, God, I was like, you can tell you guys are D&D nerds. And I was like, that's so cool.
Roll for initiative.
Who's
gonna win?
And I told them, I go, for your Kickstarter, you should make your coin. And I know that's on the docket at some point for them. So I just think that's really cool. But it makes me feel good about what you said though, Casey, because at some point I'm like, kind of hoping to be with somebody that has more experience. I've seen that work for, quite a few people. Like I just had Jason J. Willis on, and
Mhm.
him and I were talking about Tae Wong and writing within that lit RPG universe. And
Oh, he's so great. Yeah.
yeah, and like their type of co-author relationship and stuff, and it was just really interesting. But I was like, oh, I'm so jealous. Like, you're legend of the industry and that subgenre or genre or whatever. And I'm like, oh, it's cool. So, but that makes me feel, because I was like, kind of like, I just want to go somewhere and have some fun and and write a thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have no problem also being like, you're lead, I'm here, let's do
Yeah.
this thing.
Yeah.
Just want to get a something else written. So I think that actually makes me feel better that you said that. So I think that's a cool way of doing
Okay.
it. So that's really neat. I also really want to get like a coin of decision making. I just think that's I just want one for my life, right? Should I have
Right.
Burger King or Wendy's or get a salad? Now, let's be real, right? There's
Yeah.
only two
Yeah.
options in this boat.
It's really just the two burgers. Yeah, but it's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I thought it was so funny when Sheldon in The Big Bang Theory like rolled for
Oh,
all
yeah.
of his decisions that day. And my wife's always like, have you tried that? I go, we tried that at one D&D game. And my friend didn't get to go to the bathroom for like an hour and a half because
Oh, see, yeah, you gotta roll for it. No.
yeah,
Mm-mm.
his stats were horrible. I just want you guys
Yes.
to know.
You always get to trump the roll. If you roll and you realize how disappointed you were, not in a D&D setting, I guess, but in a flip of decision making, then
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny
Yeah.
because they told me when they flipped on something, they both were like, "Yep, agreed." Like, "Yep, it's like basketball. The ball never lies, right?" They're like, "The coin never lies." But then the next day, they both were like sitting there before their session, and they were
Yeah.
like so stressed. They're like, "That was or each separately, like that
Yeah.
was a horrible decision."
Like, I don't
So
want to
they
say
got
it.
to
Yeah.
yeah, right. They got to like their Zoom and their chat or whatever they do, and they're like, "This was horrible," and they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I thought you
I
liked it."
agree.
Oh, yeah. So, but it still helped them to make a decision. So I thought that was
Yes.
like
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so each to their own, right? But
Agreed.
yeah, I think that's a good one too. I like that though, a lead. I think that makes total
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Because I think like you said too, though, Marissa, that like somebody always has more experience, right? So if
Yeah.
I'm having to be co-authoring with George Lucas or Elaine Cunningham, I'm gonna defer to them, Like,
Yeah.
and they're the
Fair.
leads. So
Yes.
I think
Fair.
that
And I
makes
will
total
say
sense.
too, with that though, like there's always nuance, right? So when you are writing with somebody, I think I have heard, so there are a number of senior authors who will take on younger authors to work with them and do whatever. And what I have heard usually is if it's a co-authoring situation, they won't pick somebody unless they feel like they can also learn something from them. So it's, yes,
That's
there's
a good
always
point.
going to be somebody out there with more experience, but there's also always going to be people out there who are better at something than you are.
Yeah.
And so like when I wrote with Mark Wandry, it's Four Horsemen, it was his universe. We wrote Night Song, had so much fun. We had a plan, we deviated immediately from the plan, and it was a better book for it. And we were working on it, and he's like, look, you can't keep kicking the battles over to me. You have to do them. Like, I am here to be your safety net. I will clean it up. I will help you talk through it, but you have to do it. And I was like, but you're so good at them. He's like, I know, so I don't have to do it. I'm that good. Like, and he did not say it in a snotty way. He is so good at that. And I was like, okay, you know what? This is a safe space, because if it sucks, nobody needs to know. He can make it better. And then I did it, and he was like, all right, dummy, the rest of them are yours. Let's go. Like, this is great. This is exactly what I wanted. And I was like, okay. And then I wasn't scared to write space battles in other books. Like, it's never going to be the first thing I do, but like, he really helped me pick that up. Or like when I wrote with Chris Kennedy, he's like, well, what do you think about this? Like, you made me cry. Did I make you cry? And I was like, son of a bitch. Yes, you did. Like you get into that like fun competition, but you're also leveling up every time you write with somebody. If you're not just like, oh, I'm more senior, so I know everything in this situation, like you can learn from everyone you write with, and it's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad
100%.
that that's your experience. Not in the, how to say it politically, not in the sci-fi and fantasy genres have I talked to authors personally who've had bad experiences
Yeah.
with people that have been more
Yeah.
senior to them with more experience. Does that make sense? Did I
Yeah.
say that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have talked to authors privately from other genres who have had issues
Not
without
quite that.
naming it. But
Yeah.
but it is nice though, right? To
Yeah.
just makes me feel good to know that,
It's
that these people you
possible.
guys are mentioning. Yeah, like
Yeah.
like people are like, why do I write fantasy and sci-fi? Why do you do this? I'm like, because the people are just freaking cool, like
Mhm.
three of us can chat, we can talk about, whatever. And I just think it's cool. So I just love when people are actually like that within our genre.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
Yeah.
like, genres. I'm like, yes. Makes us feel good, right?
Yeah.
And just helps everybody. But that's really cool that,
Agreed.
that's your experience. So I think that is also one reason, I really wanted you guys to come on because like I said, I have some people watching right now who are hesitant to try out the process. Me, I'm not. I'm just literally like I have stuff like, in publication, like literally around the time this comes out, and multiple things. I just don't have time, but I'm hoping, I'm like ready, right? If I find the right person, like I'm ready for my
Yeah.
co-author. So, but I think that's
Manifest
really
them.
good,
Yeah.
right? I know. I think it's so cool though that, that we get to talk about this and, your guys' experience together, but with other co-authors too, which is also, I was really excited to have you both on because you both have other co-authors. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of co-authoring experience here and just author experience in general. So I think it's cool. That's like my students, right? Nobody listens to me unless I bring in one of you to chat. And then they listen to you
That's
and
fair.
that's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
been saying this thing for 2 years, but it's whatever. At least the
Yeah.
progress is
It's you heard it
made.
from someone else though. It's
Yeah,
real.
at
Yeah.
least the
Yeah.
progress is made. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's really cool. That's awesome. What do you think one of the hardest things is about having a co-author? Just in general.
So sometimes it's scheduling. Sometimes it's like Marisa said, one of the reasons Blood of Her Father went so quickly recently was because we were in the same place, in the same time zone, able to very quickly return back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Sometimes that's not the case. With one of my other projects, the Romanov Rising project, the Romanov Reign project. The most recent book is 1919 Romanov Rising. We were, I co-wrote that with Tom Kratman and Justin Watson. And on that book, we were in the middle of it, and I retired from the Air Force and moved from Japan to Virginia. And then, less than a year later, moved from Virginia to Massachusetts. So while we're in the middle of writing these things, my although I guess we had finished drafting it by the time we moved here, but there were some huge life events going on in my life that basically put us on hold. And my co-authors were of course super gracious about it, but I can imagine that it's like, oh, come on, I just want to get this project done and move on to other things. And I've been very fortunate with my co-authors that they've all been very, very understanding of delays and stuff. But yeah, sometimes scheduling can really be it. Having to wait on another person's, resolving their life events and intercontinental moves before you can get back the piece that you need to continue moving forward.
Or just their own brain. So I have now gotten to the place with Kacey where she knows I'm going to hit the deadline. Like she does not worry about that, I think. But twice,
Truth comes out.
two of our 5, 6 projects, 7, 8, I don't know, that we've done now, we wrote at entirely different times because Kacey, discipline, writes, here we go, steady progress. Marisa panics in her brain and thinks, I can't write any words. I'm terrible. I don't even know English. And this is never going to happen. And I can't. And I have to go. And I freak out for 3 months. And then I write my entire part in 6 weeks. Like a week before the deadline, which terrifying, I think, to a co-author. And I've gotten much better at it. I am more of a professional now, and I can get over my own brain issues. And now it's like a 2-day stall instead of a 3-month stall. But that's still something. And, eventually, again, Kacey and I have known each other many years, several decades. And so now she's just like, hey, put on your big girl pants. Let's go. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. Like, and it's fine. But, sometimes you're just writing the book at 2 different times, and that can be difficult, brains. It's fine. I would say the only other thing that's hard, and I have not had to face this, really, I'm thinking if this is true, because I've had like 7 or 8 co-authors at this point, is just when you thought you communicated something, but it is incorrect, or one of you remembers it differently. I get real stubborn about that when I'm like, no, we talked about it. I wrote it down. now you're telling me something different. I don't like it. Even if it's a better idea, I don't like it. Like, and that doesn't really happen to, I've had really great co-authors. But it is a stress I have seen for folks of like, I was trying to do this thing and we agreed to do this thing and now we're not doing the thing and I don't know why. Or they just don't, they just don't feel good about a decision or whatever. So I just like cannot triple down hard enough on communication.
Yeah.
So much. I also didn't disappear on Kacey, those 2 books that I didn't write until the end. She knew where I was and what I was not doing, but communication is key.
I just want to mention again, I know my friend's coin sounds silly, maybe to some people, but this is why you see Marisa shake her head.
Yeah,
So
it works. Yeah.
this is why, right?
Yeah.
Because they said if we when and it's rare, okay? Like they don't just go, you said this, they still talk through everything, but it's like it's rare when it comes out, right? But I thought it was such a good idea psychologically because they're like, we're going to let the coin decide, so they're not upset with each other, right? And like I said, then the next day there was like one time where they were like, no, we both agree, like this, no.
Yeah.
That was like the one time where they're like, the coin lied, Like,
the coin was wrong.
and I said, I thought you said the coin never lies. So I was teasing them. But I did think that was interesting though, like an interesting concept that I talked privately to them about, where I was like, oh, that's really cool, that like you found a way, right? I'm mad at the coin. I'm not mad at my co-author, right?
Right.
So they're able to keep going. Now, again, that works for them. I don't think I need that. Like I have had stresses here at my job. I've had things I've not been okay with, like yesterday. But when I go to sleep or whatever, I'll sleep. Most of that's gone. The next day I'll go and talk to someone like, hey, I just didn't like X, Y, and Z. I just want to move forward with this, and it's pretty chill. But I think some people maybe do need a coin, or whatever.
Or something.
Right. Well, you need whatever it's gonna take to, and Marisa said this at the beginning. In a co-authoring relationship, and really in any kind of relationship where you're trying to produce something great, whether that be, a book or a group project, an engineering project, or your life, a kid, right? Like a functional adult. You and the person you're co-creating it with, you have to prioritize the relationship between the two of you, which means sometimes you may give a little bit on things that you might not prefer to compromise on. But at the end of the day, what's most important is the product, and the product cannot exist without the relationship. And so you have to prioritize that relationship, making sure that relationship is both functional and comfortable, in order to, well, not comfortable, but healthy, right? It is functional and healthy in order to continue to produce that great book or that great engineering project or that great functional adult that you're trying to raise together, Right. So,
agreed.
Makes all sense. Yeah, that's cool. And before, I know we're kind of wrapping up on time here, but I got to ask the other side of that coin. What do you feel is the best thing about having a co-author? Or one of the things that you like in particular?
Go ahead, because I'm thinking.
Okay. One, it is so much fun. When it works, it is so much fun. Like Kacey and I finished our book, and like a week later, I rolled into a book club by myself, and I was like, this isn't as fun. Nobody, I can't just bounce an idea off or say like, I'm stuck here. Can you help? Like, it's just my brain. My brain's not as much fun. So I love that. I love that, like that energy of bouncing ideas off of or coming up just with a better product than I would have gotten to by myself. And related, the second one is the speed. So Kacey and I wrote Blood of Her Father in 3 weeks. And like we spent more time and we edited and we cleaned it up and we did the things, So you're not going to get like 21 days of mad genius. But Chris Kennedy and I also, we were going to write a book together, and then he's like, hey, just kidding. I got to back up because I got to get this book done too. Do you want to write this one with me also? And I was like, I do actually. And we wrote 2 novels in 5 weeks, 4 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. And they were not short either, but it was seriously so much fun and so much more productive because we were very friendly competitive, where he'd be like, all right, I wrote 4,000 words, back to you. And so I'd send it back and I'd be like, I wrote 5, so I guess you should probably step it up, dude. And then he'd be like, all right, 5,700. And I'd be like, okay, I wrote 2,000 words this time. But then the next day I'd be like, and now I wrote 6. And he'd be like, ah. So it's great. Like the days when one of us could not do like crazy numbers,
Yeah.
there was no judgment to it. But when we could, it was like, high five, amazing, I'm gonna beat you. And it was
That's
just
awesome.
we got 2 books done. Like
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
it's crazy.
I don't think
love
Chris
it.
knows the word short, by the way, when it comes to
I
books.
mean, yeah. Who's amongst us? I mean, I'm not good at it either.
That's fair.
But
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
what do you think, Casey?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with a yes and because I fully co-sign both of those things. But also I think that like one of the best parts of writing for me is actually immersing in the story, you know, because like I said, I'm writing stories for myself first. So I'm a selfish individual. There you have it. I'm writing stories for myself first. But when you're writing with a co-author, like you have another person on that journey with you to experience those things with you for the first time and to get excited with you for the first time and to like, you know, feel your first, like when when your character makes that heroic sacrifice and it just brings you to tears, you have that person that you actually get to see their tears with, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think just sharing those moments is probably my favorite part of co-writing, especially co-writing with Marisa, because, you know, she and I like all the same things.
We do. It's pretty great.
We're one big echo chamber. It's
Franklin's.
just the way it
It's
is.
fine. It's
Yeah.
Franklin's. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just so funny. I have to laugh because like every time I have co-authors on or I talk to them privately, like everybody always says something different, and it's like
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
it's like a mirror. It's just so it's interesting, and I keep people go, why do you keep? It's like martial arts, right? I have like 2 black belts in Taekwondo. I'm about to get 1 in karate. I'm like getting close
I
to
have a black belt in Taekwondo. Carry on.
Oh, dope! That's awesome. So, but they
I
ask
have
me, right?
0
Because
belts
like,
of any color.
you can have one of ours, Casey.
Yeah. What if his? He's got more. It's
You're over
fine.
here flying like
Yeah.
dragons, right? And
Right?
you're like,
Right?
pick us up. We'll be the
Fine.
infantry.
Fair.
But it's just funny, right? I had a kid a while back. He's like, why are you still, studying this and that? I'm like, I love the process. I said, it's
Yeah.
just, it's fun. I said, why read more than one fantasy book? You know what I mean? Or whatever,
Yeah.
like, right.
There's more to
Why
learn.
read one? Yeah. Anything. Right. I'm like, it's you enjoy it, and I just think it's interesting because that's like, anytime I talk to co-authors, it's like, it's the same thing, right? Like, why do you co-author? Like, that's why I was bummed when I couldn't have Clayton and Michael R. Fletcher on at the same time. My son got sick last year and it was like a last minute thing. I was able to get Mike on again separately, but I'm hoping like, they're like, yeah, let us know. So I'm hoping that, really soon I can get them both on again. But, I talked to them privately quite a bit about, like their stuff and, and on the show separately and stuff. But it's always so funny, like even the couple, co-authors have had on so far this season. You've all like, I encourage people who are interested in a co-author or just want to know about the process to watch each of the co-author episodes because like none of the interviews have been even remotely similar. So I just think it's cool. But that's why I talk to individual authors as well as co-authors because I'm always learning something new because we're all so different. But I do think that goes to show you the strength, right? That, you can still write something completely different or whatever, right? And still be really successful because we're all just humans and we all have those different experiences to bring to the table. But, and the same thing with co-authors. So I think that's why it's so interesting to read co-author books, in particular. So I think that's really cool. I know we're wrapping up on time, but I just want to make sure we had enough time for that last question. This has been awesome. I know we talked about some extra things, but it was just, you guys, it's like my students today were helping me with our big event next week. And I'm like, I just need this, this, and this for these 3 posters. They came up with stuff so much better than me. And you guys, the authors and creatives always did too. That's why I'm always like, just use my questions as a guide. I'm not the end all be all. I don't know everything. I'm not an expert. I'm like, I'm just trying to give us a space to talk about. So I'm so glad that, we could just kind of float around to, your guys' experiences because I've learned a lot today. So I really appreciate it. But we'll just leave room for that last one. Do you two have any news, updates, current projects, anything like that you can share with us today?
Yeah, absolutely. So by the time this comes out, Blood for Father will be available on, you can find it at chriskennedypublishing.com. You can find it on my website. You can find it on Marisa's website. It's on Amazon. In addition to that, in May, my traditionally published fantasy book, Mage Light, will be out from Baen Books. I believe May 6th is the date right now. So that
cool.
is that is an adventure fantasy with a little bit of a romantic tension plotline subplot, but I'm very excited about that one. That was very, very near and dear to me. And I believe by the time this comes out, I believe Shadow Card Guardian should be available on Amazon in ebook and paperback format. If not, if it is not available on Amazon, it will be available on Railroad, or you can get it via you get early access to the entire thing via my subscription. So details on my website.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, okay. By March, Blood of Her Father. Go check it out. 3 weeks of Mad Genius. Then I will probably have one other book coming out pretty soon after that. One of the Valkyrie's Initiative books, urban fantasy, TBD, because at the filming of this episode in December of 2024, I am about 24 hours from finishing my first solo fantasy novel, which I will be passing into Baen, and which will hopefully come out around Dragon Con of next year, but TBD. In December, I can't tell you any more than that. In March,
we're going to
check out my website. Yeah. Email me, send me a message. I'll tell you more. Because that's all I know is I'm still 24 hours from finishing it. So finishing the second draft. The first draft was done at 3:30 in the morning very recently.
Yes.
Which maybe
we're very proud of you.
Thank you. The volume of my everything today is probably that. So yeah, check it out. You can go to my website. You can come hang out with me on Facebook if it still exists in March. Who knows? But who knows? Come find me. There will be books. That I can promise you.
It's the best promise anybody can make. My wife knows. I know how to kidnap you. I'll just put free books or bookmarks or reading on a van and open it up and you'll get me.
Oh yeah, that's how I get murdered. Puppies and books. It's all over.
It's like that Family Guy thing of ooh, piece of candy. Ooh, piece of, it's like ooh, free book. Ooh, free book.
That's hilarious. That's awesome. My friend did send me like a white van where it said books and like somebody had just taken a picture and sent it to him, and it was open. I think they were collecting for a church drive or something, a donation. He goes, "Is somebody trying to kidnap you in your neighborhood?"
Dan, you joke. My sister and I and our respective significant others were driving through backwoods Maine. And you're from upstate New York, you understand. And
I do.
Driving down this curvy little road, and there is a handwritten cardboard sign on the side of the road at the bottom of a very curvy dirt driveway that you cannot see what it ends in. And it just says free books. And I'm driving, my sister's in the passenger seat, our significant other's in the back. Again, I don't know why this was the same, but both of us went, ooh, and immediately from the back, absolutely not, like in chorus, because both of our significant others are clearly aware this is how my sister and I die. It wasn't even difficult. They didn't even show the books. It was a handwritten cardboard sign, and we were like, we should go.
Michael Myers is up there just like waiting, like,
correct, just like, come to me, nerds.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's awesome. That's so cool. I just want to remind our audience that you can find both of Kacey's and Marisa's book and social links in the description anywhere where you're watching or listening to this podcast. So make sure you check that out. Just want to make sure that you've heard a lot of their products and books and everything. So we just want to make sure, again, our theme is constantly just reviewing those products anywhere where you found them. I do want to mention people again. I just want to say it like, Amazon and Goodreads for Kindle and Goodreads are linked, but Audible is not. So everybody knows me on here. I like to do the Audible and the Kindle when I can. I always make sure that I just copy and paste my Kindle, review into Audible, because again, we've had voice actors on here, narrators, all sorts of people. It helps everybody. And if you get both those reviews, right, like it helps you in general because it's a whole different market and it tells people particular things about the authors, and other employees that have helped with those kind of things and creatives. So please make sure everybody's doing that. Really appreciate that. And so do our authors and creatives. Kacey, Marisa, thank you so much. This has been awesome. I really look forward to chatting with you both in the future. Like I said, I will have that video really soon. Actually, it'll be next week, so I'll send you that link. So that'll be like kind of like a little preview. And I'll send you everything, all the other information. But if there's anything else you two
Sounds
need,
great.
you know, separately, together, whatever, you send it to me and I'll get it out there, even if it's like with other co-authors or something like that. And we will spread it to our community. Anytime you guys want to go in, please tell your, you know, other co-authors and friends. Anytime you guys want to join the podcast group, throw anything else in there. You know, AJ Gibson's really good about that. He's like, I have this thing, I'm gonna go in here. I'm like, thank you. And everybody really enjoys seeing, you know, authors of, you know, all sorts of genres in there. So it's just been really cool and really fun. So please, 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 anybody who's in the audience, same thing. If you're a fake book promoter, don't bother, because I'm not letting you in, or a scammer. But anybody else is definitely invited. Readers also have been flooding the group, and it's been so much fun. So just want to thank everybody. Yeah, it's been really awesome. So I want to thank everybody for making that group really enjoyable. But I hope you two, you know, good luck with what you're both writing together separately. But yeah, thank you so much. This has been great, but I definitely look forward to our next conversation. So whatever you guys have down the road, I'll definitely I always save slots for if anybody, you know, the next season, podcast alumni want to come on and, you know, talk or chit chat or whatever. I do have some seminars. I failed to mention that I'm trying to put together this summer, just for co-authors, just some for just female authors, of different genres and stuff, just trying to get some different stuff together. So that's also one reason why I'm filming in advance. So I'll definitely, you know, Kacey, I don't know if I have you on social media, so I'll have to do that.
Yeah, I'll give you all my links.
Yeah. That way we can link up, because, you know, Marisa and I, you know, have like Facebook and stuff, but I'll make sure that, you know, we get linked and get that information out to you guys well in advance.
I love that.
But thank you again so much for coming on. I really hope you two have a good rest of the day. And, you know, if you need anything else in the future, just let me know.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Anytime. Thank you so much. Hope you two have a good rest of the day. Okay.
Yeah. You too.
Bye.
Bye.